And welcome back to Proline. Jim Feist and myself, Dave Koken. We're going to take a look at some quarterback rotations, some preseason betting tips and trends that we can break down and see if there's anything to those. So lots of good stuff coming up in this edition of Proline. But first of all, tell you about what we've got going right now. Now, baseball is still in action, and certainly we're going to try and do our best to win plenty of money there the rest of the way. But it's football season, and the preseason is underway this week. You're going to get my entire NFL preseason plus baseball for just $39. That's plays every day with a focus definitely on football. 855-472-2577. Again, just $39. And make sure to ask about the college football games that I've already released. I've got 3 very strong week 1 plays that have already been sent out to all my clients. They've already got them. You can get them as well. 855-472-2577. Jim, baseball games of the year for you have been absolutely sensational. All season long, they've been tremendous. 26-9, including 3-0 just the last week alone. That they had a big play on Friday with the Tigers coming through. It's been great.
It has been, Dave. That was a $200 game of the year release. I have another one going tonight as a fan appreciation special. Just $20 when you call 866-546-9467. Do you want to start the season off, a weekend off with a game of the year winner in the winner's circle with me? 26-9 with these exclusive releases. Yours at a whopping discount tonight. 866-546-9467.
So let's look at a few NFL trends. And the reason I want to mention these is because in each case, we could be looking at a situation where things are about to change. I'm not saying to just bet against these trends, but when you see trends, you have to ask yourself why it's happened and is it going to continue to happen. That's
Correct.
True, and I don't care what sport you're looking at, or
Correct.
even if it's the stock market. If you're looking at trends in the stock market, you got to isolate reasons that they're going a certain way. If you don't have a reason, then it's probably not going to keep going that way. Rex Ryan, 20-8 to the over in preseason. But does that continue with Rob Ryan now coming in and installing some changes on defense? Let's put it that way. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the Bills in the regular season, but I have a feeling they're going to pay a little more attention to detail on defense in the preseason, don't you?
Well, they have to do something because they fell from 4th in the league in defense to 28th in the league last year under Rex Ryan. Rex, when he was with the Jets, he came out and they got into the playoffs that first couple of years. I think a lot of that was maybe the way defense was played at that time, and it has changed. But he is not a coach that's really down to detail. And his brother, now that's defensive coordinator, has had a terrible record at Dallas and then New Orleans, and now he's going to come in here. I personally think the Ryan boys, twins, are going to have a disastrous
I think they're going
team
to. My prediction: they're both going after the season.
I totally agree with you. I don't see anything from either one of these guys that brings consistency. Yeah, the players like him; they get along with him.
The players. Who cares if the players like that? I don't think the players really particularly like Bill Belichick.
Probably.
They like winning, and they're going to do things his way.
They
and
definitely
that's
are.
the
Or
way
they won't
it is.
be there.
Right.
Exactly.
Speaking of Belichick, big numbers to the over in the preseason, 51-34. And here's one that it could continue because they're going to get Jimmy G a lot of reps at quarterback because he's got to play the first 4 games. And I would think that Belichick probably wants to make sure he's got a confident quarterback for those first 4 games. So maybe getting some points might be a good thing. Getting some productive drives and getting something on the scoreboard. Again, speculating here. Don't chisel this in stone. It's just a thought process. And he's been a coach that has had a tendency to let the offense go out there and do some stuff early on. Doesn't show much on defense in terms of schemes early in preseason. He just doesn't care about it.
Which increases the total on both sides. When you have Brady and Garoppolo and whoever else they use after that, going against second and third string defenses, I mean, against first string defenses, they're murder. But against second and third string defenses, yeah, you can expect points. I would expect that to continue. Brady's going to have to get some reps along the way, too. Even though he's going to sit out 4 weeks, At some point in time, he's got to get.
From what I gather, they're going to treat his preseason
Yeah.
like a typical preseason where he plays none, basically.
The one thing about Belichick, he will do everything. He'll do everything differently than everybody else.
Yep.
He's hard to
And
predict.
by the way,
but
Brady-
this is consistent.
Brady doesn't need any preseason games, and he won't be rusty at all.
Well, he practiced the other day, 24 out of 24.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's like ridiculous.
He's
this guy.
the best. I think he's the best quarterback of all time. That's my opinion. Okay, McCarthy at Green Bay, 27-13 over the total. Now here's an interesting situation because they're not going to play Rodgers much. Brett Hundley's going to play plenty, and he was spectacular last August. And the reports on him are that he's had a phenomenal offseason. He's got a much better understanding of the offense now than he did last year when he was pretty much doing it on field. They're very impressed with Hundley, but how much will he play in the second half of these games early on? And that's where you get Joe Callahan and Marquise Williams, two raw rookies, undrafted. I think if you're looking at overs on Green Bay, if you expect that trend to continue, over in the first half. I'm not sure I want to keep throwing money. I don't know if I want to trust the raw rookies in the second half. So you could be looking at more points being scored in the first half. And if you can get value there, if the first half number is basically half of the overall total, I think that's what the value would be for a coach who's had an over tendency.
In the last segment, I did say that I look for a lot of unders because the coaches are very afraid. They're petrified of the injuries. They've seen what happened last year to Dallas and Baltimore, and the whole league is now very concerned about injuries. So I don't see you're going to see a lot of output, but you should see that in the line. So there may be some spots when you have the real over tendency coaches with a lower line because the trend will be under, you might get some value. Personally, it's going to be difficult for me to bet a lot of overs because of that.
All right, number 32 out of 32 in terms of his preseason record is Jason Garrett of the Dallas Cowboys.
That's not going to stop.
I don't think it is going to stop. At least, look, they've got a bunch of injury problems already, which is a rerun of last year. Normally, I mean, the way it usually works is a team that's really healthy one year isn't as lucky the next time around, and a team that's unlucky with injuries usually has a little better grasp on the good fortune the next season. Not starting off that way for the Cowboys, who have a lot of injuries already, and he's 6-14 against the number since taking over as the head coach.
You got Garrett against Fisher, L.A. Rams. Fisher used to be the guy that was 8-8 every year. Now he's 7-9 every year. I mean, this guy hasn't had a winning record in 13 years, 12 or 13 years. They're really not solid at quarterback. I don't see a lot of points in this game. It's going to be difficult for me to imagine that Dallas is going to put out much of an effort with the injuries that they have. The game is meaningless. The Rams are not an offensive juggernaut anyway. So I don't look for a lot of points. This is one of those games where I think it's probably going to tend under.
And the Cowboys would fall into that category of least experienced preseason quarterback rotations. Romo obviously is not going to play very much for clear reasons. They can't afford to have him out there.
Correct.
He's gotten a little brittle, and they just can't take a chance with him. So you're looking at Dak Prescott, who's a rookie out of Mississippi State. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. We'll have to wait and see. Jamel Showers out of UTEP. He's a second-year guy. That's a weak rotation.
Well, this goes back to the injury issues that we talked about. Kellen Moore, who actually is a pretty smart guy and knows how to manipulate around, especially against preseason defenses.
Huge.
He broke his leg. He's gone. And now you're stuck with what Dave just said. So they are really hurting, and they're hurting from suspensions and injuries on the defensive side as well. This is a team that's might have a second bad year because of that.
I wouldn't doubt it. Seattle, we talked about them, and it's a different setup out there this year. You've still got Russell Wilson, but again, he doesn't need to be out there a whole bunch of the time. And back him, Trayvon Boykin out of TCU. A lot of talent, but I think more of a college guy. And by the way, he's got to impress some people after his end to last season, where he got suspended because he got arrested and didn't play in the bowl game. And Jay Keeps, who just never materialized. That's not a very good quarterback rotation. And so we've talked about this in relation to Carroll's great preseason tendencies. Don't know if that continues this year with that quarterback rotation.
I don't think it does. I think, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, looked at, they're playing Kansas City this week. Kansas City has a much better quarterback rotation going for them with Alex Smith, and now they picked up Foles. And if you didn't hear it before, Foles was 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions a few years ago, and his head coach was Andy Reid. He's back with his head coach that he happened to like. Andy's always done well with quarterbacks, and maybe that's the chemistry that he needs.
We have free plays every day on a recorded message from one of our Vegas experts. All you need to do is call the toll-free number, 888-478-9222.
Also, at ProlineTV.com, click on the subscribe button. You're going to get notifications on new videos. Plus, you'll be sent a code to get 7 days of my service absolutely free. That's ProlineTV.com.
All right, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week with another edition of Proline. And by the way, this is a little bit of a relic right here. Remember back on the TV news, this is the way they always close the show. They do this with the papers.
Was
They
that
don't do that
Walter
anymore.
Cronkite?
That was every local news guy on the planet.
Okay.
Yeah, one did it, so they all
We're
did
throwbacks.
it. They don't do that anymore, so there's something out of the past. And we'll show you something else that makes no sense next week on Proline.